They're friends, that they were there. Maybe she's concerned that if she comes out and says it's one thing, there might be proof that it was something else. We don't know because she's not speaking to it, which is odd.
This better not come out. But yeah, I'm a man.
This is the clip the WNBA doesn't want you to see. Not because it's inappropriate, not because it's fabricated, but because once you watch it, you'll start asking the very questions the league avoids answering.
No, what she's mouthing, but she seems to, have a mouth on her and not exactly be in the gratitude space.
It's not from a game.
Griner herself hasn't commented. Now, why is
just
that?
Brittany Griner.
You were being accused of making
casually
racist
shooting hoops
statements.
by a pool.
I think you'd want to clear that up quickly.
No jersey, no bra, no compression gear, no visible scars. At first, it looks harmless, but the longer you watch, the more your brain starts to process. Wait, what exactly are we seeing? And the confusion wasn't just from trolls. This clip didn't spread because of some obscure conspiracy thread, it went viral because it made people pause. It raised questions without offering answers. And in moments like that, silence speaks louder than any statement ever could. Suddenly, timelines were flooded. Sports commentators, podcasters with massive audiences, everyone was asking the same thing. What are we looking at here?
The merchant
the
of
WNBA had
for
every
your
opportunity
ass,
to
clarify. And you're out there
clarify.
talking shit and
They could have
saying
said it was
racist
old.
shit on the freaking
They could have said it
sideline,
was out
and
of
it's
context.
disgusting. Okay, that's why
They could
nobody
have said
watches it,
something.
and it'll
No, they're
lose
watching
money.
Instead,
it. No,
they
the
said
point is,
nothing
Vinny,
when a league that
if
prides
Caitlin
itself on
Clark
fairness,
goes and is
inclusion,
playing,
and
they're
visibility refuses to acknowledge the most viral moment of its season, people dig deeper. And as the WNBA stayed silent, the commentary only grew sharper. It wasn't just about gender anymore. Fans started resurfacing old clips, even allegations, like the one where Griner was accused of calling Caitlin Clark a white girl on the court. The story wasn't fading, it was escalating. Silence wasn't protecting the league, it was exposing it. People weren't just watching anymore. They were investigating, quoting, timestamping, and pointing out double standards. This wasn't a rumor anymore. It had become a mystery. The clip itself didn't prove anything, but it cracked open the floodgates. Because when something feels off and the people in charge pretend it doesn't exist, you don't get clarity, you get chaos, and it all started with one clip. But let's be honest, it didn't come out of nowhere. Let's rewind. How did we get here? This didn't start poolside. It started with a pattern. Long before the footage went viral, before podcasts dissected every frame, before anyone debated Griner's build, fans had already noticed something. Maybe they didn't always say it out loud, but they felt it. Griner didn't just dominate the paint, she overpowered it. Her frame, her physicality, her style of play, everything about her presence felt different. Even her voice, even her mannerisms. And through it all, the WNBA never addressed it. Not once. They ignored the conversations happening in forums, comment sections, and fan circles since her rookie year.
Allegedly, it could be any number of things, but my first inclination is to say that this person is not a...
Even when questions surfaced, they were quickly dismissed, brushed off as trolling, bigotry, or conspiracy talk. Labels meant to shut people down, to keep them quiet. But one thing kept the whispers alive: silence from the top. And that silence only grew louder when a moment that should have sparked outrage seemed to disappear. In one game, Griner was allegedly caught on camera directing an inappropriate word at Caitlin Clark.
Ticky-tack fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
That clip never gained traction when it first surfaced. No league statement, no media coverage, the WNBA ignored it, and most of the press followed suit. But fans didn't forget. Because if the roles had been reversed, if a white player had thrown that line at a black player, it would have been front-page headlines, emergency press conferences, and public apologies before halftime. Instead, there was nothing, and it wasn't just an isolated incident. Each moment, each controversy, became fuel for a fire that had been burning just beneath the surface. People started digging through old game film, body language, voice clips, slow-motion replays. Clips that had nothing to do with the pool video were suddenly being re-examined. And the deeper people looked, the worse the league's silence appeared. That's when questions turned into accusations. Because when one player consistently pushes the limits of physicality, racks up flagrant fouls, makes questionable remarks, and walks away without consequence, it doesn't feel like coincidence anymore, it feels like protection, and this wasn't just about one comment. It was about a double standard. It wasn't just about Brittany Griner. It was about how the league handled Brittany Griner. When fans raised concerns, they didn't get clarity. They got silence. Not engagement, but erasure. And that erasure only amplified the noise. What looked like a viral moment in a vacuum wasn't. It was the final straw for people who had been watching, waiting, and wondering. Because this didn't start with a shirtless clip by the pool, it started with a question no one wanted to answer. By the time the clip dropped, fans were done waiting. This was the spark, the moment quiet suspicion exploded into a public storm. Brittany Griner, shirt off, casually shooting poolside hoops. No bra. No signs of surgery. Just her, a basketball, and millions of people asking what they were really seeing.
Brittany, let me see something real quick. Brick! Thank you! Get the fuck! Get the hell!
The video didn't break on a sports page. It didn't come from the WNBA, and it wasn't some secret leak. It was public, posted casually, as if it were nothing. But the moment it landed on TikTok, it blew up.
People are actually speculating, hey, this probably really could have happened, because a lot of people believe that Brittany Griner is not a...
People weren't whispering in the shadows anymore, they were saying it outright. This really could have happened, because plenty of people don't even believe Brittany Griner is female. And this wasn't some grainy security tape or a deep fake stitched together in bad lighting. The video was crystal clear, and it left people stunned. In the first few hours, it was pure shock. The clip spreading on every feed, disbelief filling the comments. Then came the edits, the memes, the frame-by-frame breakdowns. The moment wasn't just viral, it was dissected. And the more people watched, the less it felt like coincidence. Silence only made it worse. Everyone expected something, a league statement, a medical explanation, a talking head weighing in. But nothing came. Not from the WNBA, not from Griner, not from the usual media voices who never miss a chance to comment on controversy. Just silent, and in this era, that's the worst move you can make. The internet doesn't wait for permission, it runs with the silence. By the next day, people were already connecting dots: NCAA testosterone policies, Olympic gender eligibility rules, the glaring absence of anything similar in the WNBA. Speculation had shifted. People weren't just wondering anymore, they were accusing. Even those who didn't fully buy in still asked the obvious: if there's nothing to hide, why say nothing? What should have been a strange, easily explained clip snowballed into a scandal, not because of what it showed, but because the silence let the ugliest version of the story take over. This was no longer just about Brittany Griner. It was about the WNBA and its relationship with accountability. The poolside video wasn't a random viral moment, it was the match. And everything after it was the fire, because here's the truth, that clip wasn't the first red flag. It was just the one the league couldn't ignore. The reality is, the WNBA has been shielding Griner for years, not just from scrutiny, but from consequences. And once people started looking backward, a pattern snapped into focus. Start with her behavior on the court. Physicality is part of the game, but what Griner has gotten away with isn't just physical. It's reckless, dangerous, and somehow always unpunished. Case in point, the elbow. In a regular season game, Griner delivered a clear shot to Aaliyah Boston's throat. No accident. No apology. No ejection. Nothing.
A little bit of a cheap shot here. You can see Griner with the elbow, and it's a little bit high, and it hits.
Boston went down. The crowd reacted. And the league moved on like it never happened. Then came the Caitlin Clark game. After weeks of rising tension, Griner's team finally matched up against hers. And during the heat of play, after a basket, Griner clearly mouthed the words, "white girl." Yet again, no fine. No suspension. No statement. Nothing. The league stayed silent. And the media followed suit.
Ticky-tack fouls that we were talking about earlier.
Imagine that line in reverse. Imagine Caitlin Clark saying it to Griner. She'd be off the court before the next whistle, sponsors gone, reputation destroyed, legacy in ruins. But Griner? Protected, and it didn't stop there. Layer on the no calls, the flagrant fouls, the missed reviews. Clark herself was blindsided, shoulder checked by Kennedy Carter during a dead ball. No play in motion, no excuse, just a hit meant to send a message.
Clark. I mean, that's clearly...
And what did Caitlin Clark do? She got up. No complaints, no theatrics, just kept hooping, composed and professional, taking every shot sent her way. At first, the league said nothing. But after the internet erupted, they quietly upgraded the hit to a flagrant. Now compare that to Brittany Griner. She drove an elbow straight into Aaliyah Boston's throat, on camera, with intent. Boston hit the floor. The refs let it slide. And the league? Not a word. No flagrant. No accountability. So here's the double standard. When Clark gets shoved, the league acts, but only after outrage forces their hand. When Griner throws an elbow, the league looks the other way. Griner didn't even need to touch Clark that night. The message was already clear: she plays by a different set of rules, and the silence that shields her. It isn't just protection. It's permission. When people pointed it out, when fans and commentators asked the obvious questions, the response was predictable: nothing. No investigation, no transparency. Not even after the shirtless pool clip ignited everything. Instead of defending its rules, the WNBA defended its image. And in doing so, it defended one player. That's what made it worse. Because now the issue wasn't just Brittany Griner. It was the WNBA's credibility, and whether it existed at all. Once the pool clip went viral, it didn't stay buried in comment sections. This wasn't speculation anymore. It was a headline issue. TV personalities, podcast hosts, journalists, even political commentators, all weighed in. This wasn't a fringe rumor anymore. It was a full-blown debate, and no one brought more heat than Stephen A. Smith. On national television, he didn't name the pool clip directly, but the target of his frustration couldn't have been clearer.
Respectfully, Brittany Griner was in a Russian prison. You would think that somebody who is now free, back in America on home soil, would not have too much to complain about.
Stephen A.'s comments were aimed at Caitlin Clark's treatment, but the implication landed squarely on Griner, her behavior, her attitude, and her silence. And while Stephen A. chose his words carefully, Megyn Kelly didn't.
No, what she's mouthing, but she seems to, have a mouth on her and not exactly be in the gratitude space. Griner herself hasn't commented. Now, why is that? If you were being accused of making racist statements, I think you'd want to clear that up quickly.
She didn't tiptoe, she said the quiet part out loud. And she wasn't the only one. On X, former NCAA swimmer and outspoken women's rights advocate Riley Gaines resurfaced the clip where Griner allegedly called Caitlin Clark a white girl. A moment the league ignored when it first surfaced, but now, with the controversy exploding, it was everywhere. Still no consequences. Just another issue the WNBA refused to address. Then came the PBD podcast, one of the fastest growing political shows in America. And they didn't hold back.
How about it, Brittany Griner talking all that trash? We traded the merchant of death for your ass, and you're out there talking shit and saying racist shit on the freaking sideline, and it's disgusting. Okay, that's why nobody watches it, and it'll
No, they're
lose
watching
money.
it. No, the point is, Vinny, if Caitlin Clark goes and is playing, they're watching.
That single clip dragged the entire league into the national political spotlight. Suddenly, the controversy wasn't about basketball anymore. It was about race, gender, and accountability. And people who had never watched a WNBA game were now asking the same question: is Brittany Griner even supposed to be in the WNBA? Through it all, no official comment. No interview. No clarification. Just silence, but that silence didn't calm anything down, it made it worse. Because when ESPN, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and the country's biggest podcasts are all dissecting the same 10-second video, and the league still refuses to say a word, you're not protecting your players, you're sacrificing your credibility. By this point, millions had seen the clip. The reactions were loud. The criticism was brutal. And the silence was deafening. So fans did what the media wouldn't, they started digging. Specifically, into the WNBA's gender eligibility rules. What they found was nothing. No published process. No appeal system. No structure at all. Just the vague assumption that if you've been drafted, you must be eligible. But eligible by what standard? The Olympics have rules. The NCAA has policies. International federations have entire departments dedicated to gender compliance. But the WNBA? Nothing. Not even clarity on who would handle a gender-based protest if one were filed. That's when the comparisons started. Olympic runners disqualified for testosterone levels. College swimmers forced out of events over hormone tests. Meanwhile, Brittany Griner was drafted, celebrated, and promoted as the face of the league. So why not here? Why is the WNBA the only major league with no clarity? The answer seemed obvious, because it never planned to need one. The league wanted to project an image of inclusion, empowerment, visibility. And for years, that worked. But when the poolside clip dropped, the lack of rules wasn't just an oversight. It became the story. The WNBA can't explain what's happening because it never built a framework to explain it. And now that the public is demanding answers, it has nowhere to point. Because when there are no rules, there's no way to prove they weren't broken. The WNBA says it wants growth. Packed arenas, more sponsors, bigger TV deals, respect on the same level as the NBA. And for the first time in years, they are close. People are tuning in. Highlights are going viral. Jerseys are selling, but in the middle of its biggest moment, the league is losing the one thing it can't afford to lose, credibility, because you can't build trust while dodging transparency. You can't claim equality while creating exceptions. And you can't demand people take your league seriously while shielding one player from accountability. The WNBA built its brand on activism, fairness, and being bigger than basketball. But when it comes to Brittany Griner, all of that disappears. The league looked the other way when she elbowed Aaliyah Boston in the throat.
You can see Griner with the elbow, and it's a little bit high, and it hits.
They said nothing when Griner allegedly called Caitlin Clark a white girl on the court. They ignored the poolside clip. They ignored the podcasts, the memes, the media firestorm. They ignored all of it. And now they expect fans, new and old, to believe they are serious about this moment. So let's look at what serious leagues actually do. The NCAA suspends players for social media posts. The NBA fines guys for flopping too hard. The Olympics disqualify medalists over hormone levels, even when it sparks international outrage. International sports bodies debate these issues publicly, no matter the backlash, but the WNBA, they don't even acknowledge the questions. Not when fans ask. Not when media figures ask. Not even when entire political shows dedicate segments to it. And this isn't just bad PR anymore. It's institutional failure. Because when you protect one player at all costs, ignore fouls, silence critics, dodge policy, raise controversy, you're not building a league. You're building a lie. This controversy could have been contained. All the WNBA had to do was address it early. Clarify the rules. Be transparent. Instead, they ducked. And in doing so, they handed the narrative to everyone else, pundits, podcasters, angry fans, political commentators, everyone except themselves. The WNBA says it wants respect. But what game are we supposed to be respecting? One where fouls go uncalled? Where slurs go unpunished? Where the most protected player can't even be questioned? They are asking for trust while burying the truth. And in 2025, you can't have both. So the real question isn't about Brittany Griner anymore. It's about whether the WNBA has already lost the one thing it needs to survive, the benefit of the doubt. The league says it wants growth, bigger crowds, bigger sponsors, higher ratings, louder support, and recognition on par with the NBA. It posts the right graphics. It launches the right campaigns. It says all the right things, but here's the truth: you can't build trust while hiding. You can't demand equality while protecting one player from the rules. You can't shout, "Respect us," while refusing to explain what we're supposed to be respecting. The WNBA built its brand on justice, empowerment, and being bigger than basketball. And now, the most visible player in its history has become the biggest controversy in women's sports, and the league won't say a word. Not after every viral moment that made fans stop, rewind, and ask, "What is going on here?" Still, silent, and that silence doesn't protect Brittany Griner. It doesn't protect the league. And it doesn't protect the game. Because fans aren't stupid. They can handle truth. They can process nuance. What they won't accept, what they'll never accept, is being lied to. When a league refuses to be honest with its own audience, it doesn't just risk backlash. It risks irrelevance. You can't beg the world to watch you, then run the second they do. The WNBA got what it wanted, the spotlight. But when the lights came on, they had no idea what was standing next to them. And now, everyone's watching.